Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the Digital Music Master Show.
With Thomas George and this guy.
Chris Cavalio.
Yes.
Yes, hello.
We have just need to rename that. Cool. So hi everyone. This is episode 8 of the Digital Music Masters Show. This week is actually about vocal mixing and answering any questions that you may have. Even though the thumbnail might have said something else from the last one, today is about mixing vocals, or if, you know, mixing in general is absolutely fine. Been doing a bit of mixing vocals, some of Peter's vocals.
Yeah.
You know, as we make content around that, and mixing vocals is always a thing.
Yeah.
Always, it's a whole thing. But I'll tell you what I see a lot of is an overemphasis on mixing vocals to the extent where it's the vocal chain, right? Mixing good vocals is also about mixing everything else, you know. And I think people they too far detach the rest of the mix to the vocals. You know, getting vocals to sit in the mix is not just about processing vocals. It's about mixing. You know, like if something is clashing in the similar frequency band, or the dynamics are just like popping in and out of the vocal, and the vocal's getting pushed, you know, front and back, you know, those other elements in the mix are actually going to affect the way that the vocal sits. Okay, so you know, it's easy, however, to get a bit obsessed with. I mean, you saw that vocal chain, dude. Like, that's a well-justified chain, though. Okay, it might have 6 or 7 compressors on it. Okay, but they all have a reason.
Yeah, so shout out to everyone watching. This is a live stream. This is actually live right now. So if you want
This
to
is live,
ask us a question while we're talking.
unless you're watching this afterwards live, in which case it's not. Hello, Harry. Hello, Barath. Hello, Pitcher Yadif. Hello. Welcome to the DMM Show. So yeah, mixing vocals. So it's easy to get like obsessed and just narrow down on the vocals, right? Especially when you're like mixing it against a stereo track or whatever, which isn't always ideal. But you know, because there's no such thing as mixing vocals. There's mixing mixes. You know what I mean?
Hey Phil, so a question I get all the time is,
Hey Phil.
I have $200, best a microphone. It's a question I get a lot. It really does depend on.
You can get
course,
two
the
SM58s for $200.
You get a 58 and a 57 for $200.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what you want to do, what you want to achieve, the type of singer you are, the room you've got.
For $200, I'd probably get 2 budget microphones. One.
I'd get a 58 and a 57.
Yeah, or I would
Sure.
get a 58 and a condenser, a large diaphragm condenser,
Okay.
like a Rode NT1A or an SEX1. Because then you got both. You got a stage mic if you ever need it, which is also a great studio mic as it happens. But you've also got, you know, a large diaphragm condenser mic for more delicate material. And that's it. Assuming you've already got a sound card, you know, an audio interface to convert the microphone's analog signal into a digital one so that it can exist inside your computer. But yeah, you know, how much does it cost? How much does it cost to start recording? Probably under $1,000.
Well, it depends what level you want to do it at. It depends.
Yeah, but if you just want to start recording vocals at home,
It's GarageBand and a
GarageBand, yeah.
cheap USB mic to start with. Of course, it's not ideal.
Focusrite Scarlett.
Okay, we got a question from Barney. Hello, lads. Would you use compression whilst recording vocals?
Okay.
So do you mean, so you go into a compressor and record? So, or would you mean, would you record the vocals then add compression? It's two different things.
My answer is yes, but it depends how you use it. So if you do it if you do it in the computer, if you're tracking into Logic or something like that, you can go mental on the channel strip that you are monitoring and that you're recording the vocals on, right? You can throw all the plugins you want at that. The good thing is that stuff isn't going into the recording, so you can turn it off afterwards. So if you are the vocalist and you want to hear like a good vocal mix in your ears,
a lot of vocalists want to hear reverb while
they sing. And you might want to throw some EQ on there, some compression, just to make it sound like they're singing the record as opposed to just singing a recording. So yeah, whilst recording, in my opinion, that's just the best way to do it. I mean, like, you can, if you've got a preamp, or outboard stuff, you can compress on the way in. Personally, I don't know why you would do that if you're just recording vocals at home. You might as well just have the full signal, but all the benefits of recording with compression at the same time, but being able to retrospectively go, oh, okay, off, or adjust threshold, or adjust ratio. But once you record it on the way in via a hardware box, you're committed to that.
You could always...
And it's difficult to undo compression. You can undo EQ, but you can't undo compression. You
could always take your signal, so your clean signal uncompressed, and then route it into an outboard compressor, then route it back into a digital
you can
station.
Do that in post if you want to. If you just love the sound of your outboard, do that. But I don't know why you would commit. I don't know why you would print it in, especially compression. You can't really undo a compressor. Pitch Yadith, should we use compressor with every sound? Why do we need compression? Okay, so no. Because so a sound doesn't, like, there's no such thing as a compressed sound. Like, there's just a sound. This is kind of why the word, I don't think compressor is actually a very good word for all of these reasons, because it sounds too binary. It sounds like uncompressed and compressed. It's not. It's just dynamics, different dynamics, different dynamics. So a compressor, if you don't know what it is, or if anyone doesn't actually know how a compressor works, it's just a volume automator. That's all it is. It's like, that's what it is. And, so what I'm referring to are the dynamics of the signal. So a compressor is a dynamic instrument, okay? It's something that affects the dynamics. The dynamics are like, they refer to the variances in volume or level of your signal. So if you've got a vocal, where's my hand on the screen? So this is your vocal waveform, big peaks and troughs, and you've got all these big peaks, right? And then you've got all these little troughs, right? And the vocalist is singing normally about this level, but she goes, she bellows here, and then it goes in normal signal. And you want this stuff, right, to be a bit lower so that you can turn everything else up in the mix, but this doesn't get too loud, right? Am I doing this okay?
Yeah.
As you can see. Okay, cool. So a compressor goes, okay, cool. When it gets here, turn it down a bit. Turn it down a bit, right? And then, but not underneath here. So this stuff gets turned down. So it's a bit more in level with this stuff, and then you can turn up this stuff as well, so everything kind of comes up, up there. So a compressor is there to solve that problem when you have that problem, but don't use it because, like, if you don't know why you're using something, you'll never ever know if you're doing it right. How can you know if you're doing it right if you don't know what you're trying to do with it, right? Don't throw a compressor because all tracks have compressors, just because they do, that doesn't help anyone. You know what I mean? So, things like compressors and EQs, they're just problem solvers, and you should solve them when your ear goes, that needs this.
Yeah.
And then because you heard it, and you're like, that's not how that should be. That should be more like this. How do I get there? I use a compressor, or I use an EQ, or something like that.
Yeah, I would say only use a compressor if it sounds like you want to kind of limit the dynamic range. So a compressor effectively just does this with dynamics, just compresses or squishes the dynamics.
If this is the dynamics being the range of volume on your track, the compression means it reduces. However, compressors don't always reduce the dynamics. They can actually.
There's other applications for it.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like traditional. Yeah, there's other little tricks, like you can use automation. You can also use the gain and flex pitch that we talk about in this this mixing course. So there's other little tricks and stuff you can do. Yeah. So hey Pierre, hey Heavy Metal Mixer 91, John.
Yes.
So let us know if you have any problems with mixing vocals, because it took me a while to kind of get my head around just some of the terminologies like noise gate, de-esser, just stuff like that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, de-esser and noise gate, you can kind of get the gist of it from the name, but.
Cool. You're welcome, everyone. Yeah, so sometimes I feel like my purpose in this world is to help people with dynamics.
So with this week,
and stuff.
Chris has almost finished a section on dynamics. It's probably like
course,
2 hour section just on dynamics.
And I'm going deep, like even with some really unusual applications of multi-band compressor, but they're more unusual than they should be.
Yeah.
Yes. So, yes. So, you know, with these things though, like I actually said in one of the videos, you know, the first thing that you should do when you're mixing is mix, as opposed to going, do all of this stuff to the vocals, do all of this stuff to that track. Mix, like get the faders and mix. And I've said this before in other streams, in other discussions, other topics, but don't assume the most difficult path to the goal.
Okay.
Just get there quickly and get there simply. And when problems arrive, solve those problems.
Because I normally have a kind of different way of mixing to you. I kind of mix as a composer and as a arranger all at the same time, and you kind of more traditional mix engineer. What's your opinion? Because you were kind of flying the wall with Peter and I's session the other day. Peter Darling, he's a singer-songwriter, he came around and we recorded some vocals and arranged this track. Because the way I was doing it was I could be wrong. I kind of experiment a lot when I'm mixing and kind of use it as a creative process.
Yeah, I mean, depends. But you don't have problems there. You don't, you know.
Sometimes I do.
Sometimes you do, but that's because that's normal. But like, you know, there's no absolute opinions on this stuff. You know, like everyone's different and everyone's trying to like do different things and work different ways. You produce all of your things at the same time. You do everything at the same time. But if you were to hire a mix engineer or whatever, if you want that perspective, you know, they might do it differently. But maybe that's why you'd hire them. I don't know. But, you know, there's no, you know, every mix has, in my opinion, at least 1,000 good versions of it. And each of those 1,000 good versions has a different process getting to the end.
Yeah, well, the way I mix vocals or mix a track isn't really like EQ, gain, compression or whatever. It's more like creating an instrument out of the mix a lot of the time, or creating a complete unique sound out of or what I think's a unique sound out of what I'm doing. Like I make a lot of different drone sounds. I try and make a lot of different sample instruments. That's what I like to do. So mixing for me is kind of the composition process and the arrangement process. Yeah. Rather than just like doing what's your chain.
But if you know, if it's a band, that is a stage process. There's recording, production, and mixing. You know what I mean? You don't generally mix as you record. You record with good levels and everything, and that will take care of.
Depends if you're doing a remix or a rework of a track.
No, I know, but if you are recording a band,
yeah,
that you you know, it's very difficult to record and mix at the same time. You wouldn't necessarily do that. That song will get mixed, probably by someone else or by someone, but it's a separate process to recording process. It would be counterproductive to do them at the same time.
It depends if you want the band to sound like as they do live, or if you want to kind of sculpt it into something else.
Yeah, but that's kind of pre-production. Like, you'd still mix it. There would still be something to do. Do you know what I mean? Even if you just print it down to a stereo track, that is still the mix process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the moment, like, the mixing is getting it from this to this. Even if you don't do much, it's kind of like mastering. You know what I mean? Like, at some point, these different streams of signals, they have to be combined. That process at least is mixing.
Yeah.
You know
So we've got a question.
I'm going to answer John's one.
Answer that one. Yeah.
What, this one?
Yeah. Because I can't pronounce... How do you pronounce that name?
Pitchiadith.
Pitchiadith. Sorry if I can't pronounce your name.
It would help me a lot if you guys make a course with how to set a studio. I am just beginning and don't know how to use gears. I mean, that's a big question. Depends on...
We cover the vast majority of that in the vocal production course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, our vocal production course can help you do that. Or how to bring the sound to singer. Yeah, all of which we covered in the vocal production course. Yeah. We have a course for that, honestly. So, because there's a lot of components to that. Just too big to answer.
You can't really answer in a live stream, yeah.
If you are interested in that course, just go to thomasgeorge.com/course offers.
I believe so, yeah.
Thomas George.
Just double check that link. But yeah, if you are interested.
Or just go to thomasgeorge.com and follow through. You'll be able to find that. Okay. And then let's just check that works. And then go back to... Yeah, we'll just drop the link. All right, good.
We'll drop the link if you are interested.
Right, scroll up a little bit, please. I really like that. All right, cool. John asks, how often do you sidechain HPF, which is high pass filter, in the compressor for vocals? I did it the other day because I was compressing some vocals, but some low end material was like triggering the threshold in ways that I didn't want it to. So I used a high pass sidechain to ignore that low end content so that the trigger was just much more smooth. You know, was making the needle behave in the way that I expected it to. Hope that makes sense. Craig, do you guys get your levels to your mix using LUFS minus 14 standard? Nope. There is no... Minus 14 LUFS isn't a standard. That's not a standard. You don't have to... There's nothing to say that you have to mix to that standard because it's not...
Minus 13.947.
There's a lot of myths and a lot of false information around that standard thing. If you go to unlockyoursound.com/Spotify LUFS, Spotify-LUFS, if you just want to drop that, unlockyoursound.com/Spotify, I think it is, yeah, Spotify-LUFS. Yeah. Yeah, and then just, that's cool. Here's a blog for that. There you go, there's a blog. So, when you're mixing, the only standard is the song itself, right? Give yourself loads of headroom, so that you don't have to worry about peaks and clipping and stuff like that, and just mix. Get that balance down, and you know, the more you're focused on that and the better you serve the music in that way, mastering is going to take care of everything else and optimize everything around it. There were other questions up there, so I hope that helps, Craig.
That's it.
Oh, there were, yeah. Okay, cool. John, I hope that answered that question about sidechain. Pitcher Yadith, is this course the course you mentioned, music production in Logic Pro 10?
No.
I
think we've got 4 I think I've got about 5 courses on Logic Pro 10.
So Thomas has a Logic Pro 10 overview
Yeah.
course, general. Would you say that's fair? Overview course, general course.
Yeah.
On how to use Logic Pro 10. The vocal one is how to record vocals. The whole course is focused on best practices recording vocals, and specifically helping you, giving you the best practices to get good results at home. Probably, much better results than most people expect at home with very budget gear. And others. Phil says, if you want to keep vocals clean, is delay better than reverb, or are you better ducking reverb with sidechain compression? So, in general, I think the right reverb is there. Generally, you just need to find the right reverb and the right pre-delay setting. Pre-delay is huge, because pre-delay, the way that pre-delay affects reverb as we hear it is it position. So the reverb, the general characteristics of the reverb paint a picture of what kind of space you're in, but the pre-delay determines where in that stage, where in that space the instrument is coming from. Because let's say Thomas and I are in this big cathedral hall, right? But Thomas is only like 2 feet away from me and he's talking to me, right? Every word that he says, every word that he says comes to me, dry, if you like. The clean signal comes to me. And because he is much closer to me than I am to the nearest walls, the difference in time between his dry signal hitting my ears, then it bouncing off the first walls, and we know those early reflections come to my ear, that is a long pre-delay. So long, sometimes you've got the right reverb and it's just a matter of getting that pre-delay down, because if the pre-delay is too short, it's going to make stuff sound distant and muddy, but if it's long enough, it will have that. Not only will it have it just a bit of separation from those early reflections, which might be muddying what you're already doing, but it will also give it more presence up at the front of the stage, but the reverb is still there. The reverb is still giving that sound a sense of belonging in a specific place. Also, top tip for using reverb: EQ it. EQing your reverb returns is always good advice, because reverb is a very messy instrument, especially on the low end stuff. You might want to filter some of that out. Yeah. You might even want to scoop out some top end and just give a bit of boost to the general color of the reverb that you want. Just refine that reverb return with EQ to clean it up, but also give it a bit of pronounce the color of the tone that you want. Most of these reverbs will have that built in, so I suggest you go there first. But it's really nailing doing how to, what to expect of reverb and how to adjust the settings according to the material. But it also depends how you're using reverb. So reverb isn't always for space and ambience and to sound like it's in a concert hall or whatever. Sometimes you're not even using it for reverb, you're using it for body. You're using it, I might use a short reverb with a short pre-delay on a vocal, not to sound like it's in a place, but to give it a bit of 3 dimension, just to make it a bit rounder, because especially when you've got a really dry recording, it just sounds like a thin piece of paper. But when you add a really small reverb, but quite an aggressive one, on a bass, and you just mix it in a bit, it will just round off. It'll just give the vocal a sense of 3 dimension. Yeah, like I said. Hope that helps. Phil, WB Crew Records says, hello, I have tutorial for aux. Okay. Cool. Thanks for that. Any more questions about
Another
stuff?
thing is, we've been creating these videos. Pretty tired right now, actually. Wednesday's always a long day. Creating these videos about mixing. So if there's anything you want to know specifically,
yes,
that you want us to cover in this mixing course, so it's going to be in Logic Pro 10, and we're going to be using the stock plugins. So if you want us to cover stuff like the Waves plugins or any of the third-party ones, we're probably not going to cover that. However, if you want us to cover, say, I don't know, like a vibrato or whatever you want us to cover, just let.
That's going to be the one, man.
Always that vibrato.
Always
The vibrato. But if there's something really specific you want us to cover, let us know.
Craig says, I love the fact that you guys use...
Well, the fact is, Logic's got so much in there. You don't really need to use other plugins the vast majority of the time. And there's so many different companies that have different plugins as well. You can't really cover every single one. If you look at, for example, the Waves bundle, there's hundreds of different plugins. We're not going to cover all them because most people don't have them. And you can do most of Waves, for example, in Logic stock plugins. Most of the third-party ones you can do Logic anyway. They just don't look as shiny. They might take a little bit longer to work out, but you can still kind of get the same results. And that's what we do. We don't want you to spend £1,000 on the plugin bundle unless you really need to. Like a lot of this stuff you can just work out with the stock plugins.
But also, it's learning just how this stuff works. So, like, the content that I've been creating, you can't, like, someone actually said this in a review about the mastering course recently. You can take this stuff and apply it to other plugins. When, like, I'm teaching how to use Logic stock plugins. Okay, that's got to go. That guy's got to go. Getting spammed up in here. Okay. I'm also, like, you know, I don't think everyone's always interested, but, you know, I do try really hard to teach, like, not how to use Logic compressor or how to use Logic audio effects, but this is how compression works. This is how EQ works. This is what you can expect from it, you know, and take that knowledge, take those principles and apply them to other plugins as well. And to be honest, I've been using Logic for a long time. I know how good the plugins are in there. It's, you know, I see a lot of people on Facebook groups saying, oh, the plugins are rubbish. And I'm like, come on. Like, you obviously don't know how to use all of them.
Yeah.
Like, because any rational professional will go, yeah, Logic, you can do everything with Logic plugins. You might choose not to because it's just easier to do with other stuff. Fine, cool, love it. You know, as an audio engineer, if I'm going to, you know, it's spending money on something that's going to save me time, because being an audio engineer is a business, then absolutely it makes sense. If a Waves plugin or a Slate plugin makes, you know, cuts my workload in half because it's just got an awesome workflow inside of it to get me from A to B to Z really quickly, then I'm like, absolutely, I can do more work.
There are certain plugins that I like to use that are a lot easier than the Logic ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I do like the Waves de-esser a lot. There is the Waves Doppler. I don't really think you can do that in Logic. However,
well, you can. It's a pitch modulation, but it's not set up to do to just go. You click here and you get Doppler. Do you know what I mean? That's
however,
my point. You know
I like them because they're easy. You can just do it. But if you learn how you can do all this in Logic as well, when it comes to these plugins as well, if you do want to use other ones, it's
yeah, and you'll value them so much better. Yeah. Like, you'll actually value that way better. Like, you know, it's like if you spend you might spend $1,000 on plugins, but it doesn't mean you're going to get $1,000 worth of value out of them if you don't know how to use them. Yeah. If you don't know why you're using them, if you just bought them, that's just the easiest way to sink $1,000.
So we've got a question from Craig. What do you guys recommend with mics? USB mics okay, or do you recommend something better? I would say USB mics are okay if you're doing, like, say, a voiceover tutorial. One of my friends, shout out to Pilot Mike, he does aeroplane simulation videos, and he uses was it the Blue Yeti microphone, USB mic, for that kind of stuff, like just talking on YouTube, like games or whatever. Or he'd say simulator, but like a game or whatever. Fine, yeah, use a USB mic. But if you want to record, yeah, if you want to record, yeah, but for stuff like that, like voiceover, maybe games, voiceovers, stuff like that, USB mic's fine. But if you want to use something a bit more professional, I'd recommend getting an audio interface which converts analog into digital. It just sounds, in my opinion, a lot better.
I mean, the actual difference though is a USB mic is an audio interface and a microphone just built into the same device, which is which might make things seem easier and accessible at first, but they're not. like you're just limited, and if they don't update the drivers on that one, then that whole unit is dead. So you might as well invest in microphones, XLR cables, and audio interfaces, because then like you can replace the audio interface, you can replace the microphone, and if you buy an SM58, you're going to keep that thing for life.
Yeah, it depends what you want to record. If you just want to, I don't know, if you just do it for a little bit of fun, you're just starting off, maybe how to get USB mic.
Yeah, if you're just doing podcasts or something.
If you're doing podcasts, USB's fine, but I'd have a look at getting maybe like a Scarlett Focusrite 2i2.
Yeah.
It's kind of the standard like bedroom producer audio interface. I've got one over there actually, and that's those 2 inputs. And then maybe get like, I don't know, Shure SM57, maybe like the Rode SEX1, something like that. But it depends on your budget, depends what you want to record. I'd say 58 and 57 are great. 57 you can pretty much record anything, maybe not kick drum, but pretty much anything. Cool, so we've got a question from...
John says, the stock plugins discussion sometimes changes depending on the door, as some doors lack some... as some doors lack some plugins or theirs are just bad. Yeah, so I'm talking about Logic, because Logic does have all of the types of plugins that you require for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know about Pro Tools and Reaper and stuff.
Yeah, I use Ableton Live as well. Ableton Live got some really good ones. Some of the ones like I do prefer the compressor in Logic over the compressor in Ableton. You might say compressor is the compressor, but it has got a few more.
It does have more.
A few more stuff going on in the Logic one, but yeah.
Still, I've heard that Logic stock plugins are really good. They are awesome. Yeah.
We've just got a question saying most USB mics have a lot of latency.
Yeah, that's actually another limitation. Like you don't. The latency of that unit is the latency of that unit.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like, at least with an audio interface, you can direct monitor and stuff, you know? So, yeah, I mean, latency isn't necessarily a problem, though, if you're just doing a voiceover.
Yeah, it depends what you're doing it for.
Exactly, it always does, doesn't it? Always does with this music stuff. It always depends.
So, reiterating what I was saying before, if anyone... wants anything specific for a mixing course, let us know. If you're watching this on the replay, put it in the comment below. If you're on the Digital Music Masters Facebook group, let us know in there, because we want to create this course for you guys and girls. We want to create something that,
Yeah, I mean, it's all good.
Rather than us just talking about what we think, we want something that people
Well, it's all well and good us making the content that we want to see, but I mean, like...
It was up to him, it'd just be a whole course on multi-band compressors.
Dude, when I was doing... So I did like 3 videos for that? Or
no,
more?
Much more, like 6.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. That's more. That's like more videos than there are bands inside the multiband. What did I do with that? Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I could have done the course on multiband compression.
The complete multiband compression.
Because I also did multiband expansion. Just saying. Just saying. It's not every day.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed. I'm just particularly proud. I don't, even if no one likes it, I don't care. Well, yeah. Any questions? Any questions? Maybe we should ask the questions like, what has been like. What I'm going to ask you, what is something that you've spent money on in music tech that was either a complete waste of money or it just wasn't what you expected it to be, or...
I normally do a lot of research before buying anything.
Yeah. A plug-in that you impulse purchased.
Maybe this thing. Don't know if you call this music tech. I'm going to use this once. Stabilizer.
Oh no, we love that though. No. I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Okay,
I'm not ready.
Maybe not the stabilizer.
I'm not ready to...
Music tech.
Okay, John has a...
Oh, maybe like certain stomp. When I used to play a lot of guitar, certain stomp boxes.
Yeah, sure.
I remember you could buy like the Boss. I can't remember the model now. The Boss multi effects unit, but I was like, no, I'm not getting that. I want to get the separate pedals because they're so much better, which I do think they are. So I'd buy loads of buy and sell pedals. I remember I had an octave pedal, and the Digitech Whammy. It is all well and good. It is good fun, but when do you really, unless you're Tom Morello, when do you really use it on the track? I used to just use it to go up an octave. I was like, I could just slide up an octave. But no, Digitech whammy, I love that thing, but I didn't really need it. But
Well,
first time I played the Digitech whammy, my mind was blown. Don't think I ever used it on any tracks in any bands.
Candy, isn't it?
I never used it live. I just like messing around. It was fun. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It was a waste of money thinking about it, but it was really good fun. Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. John asks, I will come back to that though. John asks, do you make any duplicates of the lead vocals, parallel processing, or widening?
Swidening.
Swinning. Yes, but I don't copy the track. I just make
Buses or...
pre or post fader sends, and I bus all of the things, John. Like I bus all of the things. You've seen my busing and stuff. Yeah. I will have in terms of auxiliaries, like when I'm mixing, I get to buses as quickly as possible, right? So I bus all of the things, and I get down to buses, and then I turn off all of the audio tracks in the mixer. So I'm just on buses. And a lot of those are like, parallel Vox 1, parallel Vox 2, parallel Vox 3, and they are parallels of either the lead Vox or the bust Vox or whatever. Bust all of the things. Damien loves it when I say all of the things on things.
Right, so I'm going to say I actually do make duplicates of lead vocal if I'm creating harmonies. So if I'm using like flex pitch, or if I'm using any kind of auto tune, I will make a duplicate and do it that way.
That's a good point. Yeah, there you go. So you can duplicate just a clip and do things to it.
Yeah. So maybe the chorus, maybe the singer didn't quite sing the harmony you want. Maybe you want to put in your own harmony. I'll duplicate them and write in my own harmony.
Bust all of the things.
Bust all of the things.
I do bust all of the things. No, I literally immediately I bust all of the things. Even if some things, because I do it for gain staging as well to an extent. Like, I will bust all of the things. Like, sometimes if I'm really quickly want to get good gain staging, this is a bit of a dirty one, this one. Let's say I've got 40 audio tracks, right? And they're all a bit messed up in terms of their gain, right? But they've all got processing on them, you know, and I don't want to hurt any of that. Let's say that you sent me something to mix in a Logic project, right? What I would do is bus all of the things. So some things go into a group bus, or some things just go to a bus, like their own bus. Mm-hmm. And then I just pull down all of the faders on all the audio tracks. And it's like fast tracking to gain staging. Because now that means everything is still the same relatively to each other. All of the inserts are as they were. Like, I'm not changing the gain going down into the channels. And then I get healthy levels on my buses. Boom.
Nice.
Creolize Coaching says, do you use EQ8 on the track, and what frequencies do you cut out?
On what track?
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you know, because an EQ is a frequency balancer. You know, you use EQ to change the balance of the frequencies in the signal when it's necessary.
If it sounds fine, don't EQ it.
Yeah, if it sounds fine, don't.
If it's got like a low rumble that shouldn't be there, maybe scoop it out. If it's got a really harsh, horrible frequency, maybe cut it out. Yeah, so it
totally depends. Like, if it's too muddy, solve that problem.
I think a lot of people just scoop a lot low end out just for the sake of it.
Yeah, I actually don't like that advice. Yeah. Like, they'll high pass all of the things, but the bass thing, like, I get it. It's not wrong. It's just not, like, good advice to go in with and go, oh, I need to do this all of the time. That's not necessarily the case. Per Jones says, will there be any exercise files with the mixing course? I thought about this earlier. I mean,
think there should be. I
think
I might. So I've got a few different tracks that I'm working on right now. So I can put them in if people want to mix at home. Maybe even do like a remixing competition and stuff like that. Because I've been working with Peter Darlin.
Yeah, I was literally thinking mix competition.
I mean, check out Peter Darlin if anyone wants to. He's got a really great voice, really cool guy to work with as well. So I'm making some songs with him. I could probably put those projects up.
Yeah, just throw some stems in.
Yeah, if people want to have a play around mixing my instrumental stuff or Pete's vocals,
we'll do
welcome.
That. Yeah. Creolize also says on the vocal itself instead of the master. Yeah, so you know, not every vocal is the same. not every recording is the same, not every microphone is the same, not every singer is the same, not every room's the same. So
unless they're identical twins, like in Good Charlotte. Yeah. So,
okay. Barney asks or says, recording vocals with dynamic mic, I find you don't need to soundproof the room as you have to do with a condenser mic and get some good recordings. Just
we were discussing this earlier, actually, the difference between the RE doing our lectures with an RE20, so Electro Voice RE20, compared to a Rode NT-G1 shotgun mic. Like the difference, the room treatment you need with a shotgun mic is kind of insane.
Well, a condenser mic, more specifically, because it's condenser mic, it's just more fragile. It's just more, it picks up more delicate content.
Yeah, but the shotgun mic's, picks up a longer range than the
Yeah, no, it
RE20,
does. Yeah, so it's going to be heavy on
so
the
yeah,
reflections
I
and
agree. Yeah,
whatnot.
dynamic mic, you don't need to soundproof the room as much as a condenser.
Yeah, I mean, the SM58 that we did on James, like, I still can't believe how much we got of him and how little of everything else we got. Because we almost intentionally didn't, work too hard on treating this place because we wanted those challenges, even though they weren't even, I don't know, and sometimes the dynamic mic just has everything I want.
If you drop it, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, and honestly, like, unless you're recording an extremely delicate signal and you want to pick up all of the nuance of this acoustic guitar or whatever, you don't always need to use a
and
condenser.
you don't need phantom power.
Yes. John says, do you prefer coloured preamps for vocals or clean? I don't really think about that stuff. I think just record the best, cleanest signal you can and then add all the colour you want, whatever. This isn't a fix and post thing, but adding colour on the way in, what if that colour doesn't work in the mix? Like, what if it's, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but some recording engineers were like, no, I have to have this colour, it works perfectly, cool, make that cool, but that's fine. But if you aren't that confident and you're just trying to make a choice between coloured or not coloured or whatever, just go for clean. You can add the colour if you want on the plugins, saturation, and you can still monitor it in, you can record with it, but at the same time without it. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be an either or at all, actually. You can actually have all the colour that you want whilst you're recording it, and then you can bypass it or adjust it afterwards. That's the wonders of non-destructive audio editing and recording. When you think about it relative to analog, it's a freaking miracle. So many things that we don't even so many things we don't even have to do pre-production a lot of the time anymore. Like, we just record, and then you just have more options. Yeah,
exactly. You didn't answer the question before. So what piece of tech have you regretted buying or not used? Mine, I don't know. Mine I didn't regret. Like, at the time, the Digitech Whammy was quite a lot of money, but it was so much fun.
I'm a bit like you, though. It takes me a long time to make a decision to buy a piece of gear. I reckon I've got a few plugins knocking about that I never used. I just don't know what they are. I'm a minimalist generally, and it takes me a while sometimes to make an investment because I've read every forum thread about it and every review, and done my due diligence on all of that to make sure that I know what I'm buying. I literally can't think of one though. If there is a thing, it's probably software, to be honest with you. Probably a piece of software knocking about somewhere that I just didn't necessitate. No, sorry. Don't have it. Just don't know it. Don't know what it is.
Don't know. I regret selling some stuff.
Yeah, I regret selling
I had this
some
electric
stuff.
piano that I really liked. I don't know
Yeah.
why I sold it.
I regret selling some stuff.
Yeah,
You do what you do, don't you? At the end of the day. Come on, buy it again, but
true.
we regret selling it so much. Yet we could buy it.
Yeah, if we regret it so much, why don't you just buy it again?
Yeah.
Well, it's because you replace it. So Barney, good point. The phantom power. Any tips or tutorials you have on getting a performance mix in the headphones only?
Yeah.
Only tips I would say is ask the singer what they want.
Yeah.
Because what you think, a lot of different singers don't want to hear themselves back. Other singers want to hear drenched with reverb. Some singers want to hear themselves compressed. Some singers basically want to hear themselves mixed in the headphone mix.
Yeah.
Some singers go crazy if there's a little bit of latency. Some don't care at all.
Some are more sensitive to it than others.
Some are kind of divas and want it to be perfect. Some are just like, let's just hit record and let's go. So I'd say just ask the singer and just do whatever they say. So they're in a good mood, so they're going to give a better performance.
Yeah, and if you're the singer, just create one that just sounds great.
If you're the singer, just make a preset and just use that every time.
Yeah, and just
experiment, find what you want, just keep using that.
Yeah. And like I said before, it's not like you're recording those plug into the signal, so you can just delete afterwards. So it's mixed. Just make it sound great for whoever is singing it.
Make them sound comfortable, because if they're all stressed out, if they're freaked out, like when you're doing recording, stuff always goes wrong. There's always something that's going to go wrong. But just don't let the singer know. Everything's cool, everything's fine, So also that's great, even if they've sung the worst vocal take ever, which some singers do, just, it's great, awesome, really good, smashed it. Just keep them in a positive mood, because a lot of singing psychological, a lot of singing is like an emotion, about getting into that kind of flow state. Yeah.
You know, and it's the job of a producer to serve the musician in that way. You know, if you ask them though, because a lot of musicians, they record they've at least had a go at recording their own stuff, so they'll turn around and go, oh yeah, there's actually this Logic preset that I like.
No, it's always some. Sorry if anyone's a singer. It's always some weird, vague. I kind of want like a twinkly sound. I'm like, what twinkly? Yeah, it doesn't quite sound crunchy enough. I'm like, you want what? Like distortion, saturation? No, crunchy. That kind of crunch sound. I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah.
It's our jobs though, essentially, is to take.
Can you make it sound bigger?
Take subjective qualities like crunch and warmth and stuff like that, and translate that into compression, saturation, EQ.
Yeah.
You know?
I've actually had twinkly. I'm like, can you make it more twinkly? I'm like, what is a twinkle? What is twinkly sound? I'm like, yeah, but yeah. Yeah.
Oh, love it. All right. Any more questions, guys?
Well, I'm going to go back to the gear. I love talking about gear. What's your favourite piece of hardware, equipment, not software, actual that you've bought and you're like, oh, this is it?
Them.
The speakers?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So that answers that question. Okay, so...
Tips for motivating the singer.
Ooh.
Have a laugh with them, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee before you start. I'd spend about half an hour, any performer I record with, just having a joke, getting rapport with them, just messing around, having fun, like having a laugh. And then when it's come to record with your friends, you have a bit more rapport, more banter. And then when you do record, it's not more fun, and it's not like serious recording time. It's like it's like put another track down. It's my tip, just befriend them really.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's people business at the end of it.
Yeah. That smoking a J could work for some people. For me, I probably wouldn't get anything done. But yeah, it depends who the artist is. If you're in a place where that's legal, maybe you could. That's my correct answer on that.
Yep. Great. Push 2 and my KRK8s. Cool. Awesome. As the singer I do. Oh, cool.
Yeah, if that's... I bet for a lot of singers that's... Yeah. It can work. As a producer, you don't. As a singer, you do. I guess as a producer, it's a lot of times it's very technical, and maybe if you're slightly intoxicated, you can't you can't be that logical. If you want to do something more emotional, maybe... Yeah, that can work. What does that mean?
Is that panda eyes?
What does that mean, John? Is that a sad face? Tips for motivating the singer? Do you want another tip? Yeah.
Maybe it's my glasses.
It's your glasses. You got any tips for motivating? You got any tips for motivating singers?
you know.
If stuff goes wrong, don't
Just-
tell them it's going wrong.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
like be their mate. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I don't know how to make a practical tip out of that. It's difficult. It's people stuff. It's
Yeah.
just be nice and you know, but also one you know generally like, and this is very difficult for engineers to do in my experience, is just deplete your ego and like you don't know it's not about you. You're not there to be the clever one. You know, you're not. No one wants that. That's not why you're there. You're there to serve the singer, basically, in my opinion. So deplete your ego first, and then the rest is easy.
Yeah, if you're that kind of like nerdy know-it-all,
Don't be that.
don't
guy.
be that like.
No one wants to work with that
Yeah,
guy.
you know that nerdy.
Yeah.
That might technically be right, but no one wants to work with that know-it-all. This.
And no one cares for what's technically
Yeah.
right. This is art.
Yeah.
You know. Michael Sereno says, I'm a singer myself. Talking her in the live beforehand helps, but I feel it's on the singer themselves to get themselves amped up to perform. Yeah, I mean, everyone's there to get the job done, and so everyone should do their bit.
Yeah.
To get the job done, you know. Not.
Well, I'd like to hear from you, Michael. What do you do to get yourself amped up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Quaylo says, indeed, but sorry. That's cool.
Have you heard Pete, who we're doing this project with at the moment? Have you heard his vocal warm-up exercises? He has some.
Was it that?
He has some really interesting. I've been doing tracks with Pete for years now, but the first track that I did with him, he started doing these strange vocal exercises, and I thought he was. I don't know. I thought he just gone insane. I was like, "What?" Then after a while, but every time before he does a record, he does these really strange vocal exercises. Sorry if you're watching this, Pete, but it's quite funny.
Hey, Pete. Thanks for coming around and recording some vocals with us. See you again soon.
No, but you get different rapport with different singers. I really like working with Pete. He's just every single time he nails it. Every time.
He is great.
He's really, really good at lyric writing, really good at storytelling. Nails harmony, so good at harmonies. And it's always good fun when me and him create a track together. It doesn't feel like we're making a song, we're working. It's just it's like having a laugh with one of your mates. That's what it feels like. Well, it is really. We're just like, I'm doing loads of synth stuff, programming some drums, he's laying some vocals down. It's just good fun, really.
I'm making the coffee. It's great.
Chris is making the coffee, talking about compression. It's great. No, but yeah, that's what a good like working relationship with anyone is. Just like you feel like you're in that kind of flow state. It doesn't feel like work. It just kind of happens. Like how easy that track me and Pete did the other day. Like how like organic and simple did that? In like 2 hours that happened.
I'll answer that question when I start mixing it, Thomas.
But in terms of the writing, it was it's fluid.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
Michael says, I used to do about 30 minutes of warm-ups, but lately I found it best to just do some light exercise and something to clear your mind. That seems to work best for me at least. Cool, man. Thanks for sharing.
It must be hard being a singer, like playing the keyboards on a laptop or doing synths or mixing. You can kind of chill out, but singing is very physical. It's very, it could be very difficult.
It's very...
It's like playing the saxophone.
Spiritual as well.
I just physically couldn't be bothered to
play
play
the
that.
saxophone?
No, I wouldn't be able to. It's just
I
too much
see.
physical effort for me. I want to be doing something more chilled out.
Like a saxophone course.
Make a saxophone course.
Never mind.
Yeah.
That was the dream. Anyway, John asks, do you start processing in the lead vocals or top-down mixing? Okay, so I'm a top-down mixer, generally.
Could you explain what top-down mixer means?
Yeah, sorry. So what I was saying earlier about bussing all of the things, depends. Like, I mean, so top-down mixing is kind of mixing in reverse. So like, instead of, and I don't recommend this practice, okay, that I'm just gonna start. But disclaimer: I do not recommend this practice for if you're new to mixing or still not confident. I mean, still not confident isn't not always confident, but anyway. So I've got 40, 50 tracks, right? I bust them all up and I start work here on the buses and then work backwards into the details.
Okay.
You know, so I might, you know, mix on the buses and get a good mix down and then work backwards into the details. Other people will just start cleaning everything up first, then do some faders, then bust things. That's down top or just forward normal mixing.
I think that's what I do.
Yeah, normal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I do it backwards and then forwards a little bit. Mixing is not a linear process.
Yeah,
it never is.
Sometimes I think it depends what mood you're in.
Yeah, sometimes honestly, sometimes I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Like right now, I am not about editing vocal. Like let's say hypothetically, right now, I'm not about flex timing vocals for the next 4 hours. But I want to know what the mix might start to sound.
I know what I won't comment, but I know why you don't want to do any more flex timing vocals.
For reasons that are specific.
Too much flex time.
Too much, you know, because right now I'm not about that. I'm in my right brain or left right brain. I don't want to do that mechanical task right now, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, but also I need to get an idea of what the mix can roughly sound like. So I do the roughest, dirtiest mix possible. Bus all of the things, compress buses, move faders, EQ things, and get a sound. Like, what is the overall sound of this mix going to be? What is the overall sort of colour going to sound like? So I can go, okay, I reckon it can sound like this. Get to 50% as quickly as possible. Get to know what that starts to sound like. And then maybe start undoing that stuff and winding into the details and start fixing problems. Because you might find that a lot of these problems don't actually exist in the mix. Because things get masked, things, you know, like those vocal tracks that I was mixing for the course, the old Peter Darling ones, the older Peter Darling ones, some of them are filthy, like in terms of noise and stuff like that. But in the mix, those problems don't exist because our brain masks things like they.
Well, if there's drums going on, you're not really going to hear a little bit of grain.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like when you solo it, some of it is just filth. Like not bad. I'm not saying it's bad because the actual signal is actually
trying
good.
to remember where and we're recording.
But there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of room, but a lot of it disappears in the mix.
I think we recorded this with a SM7B. I think.
Cool. So, Damien says thanks, Thomas. Thank you, Damien. And Creolize Coaching says, do you guys stick to certain styles or do you like to work on all kinds of projects? I.e., because you're more familiar or like certain styles of music better than others?
I generally like kind of weird alternative electronic music, I guess.
Yeah.
Generally, but this is for me. Writing music. I like to write electronic music.
Yeah.
Generally, kind of strange chords, weirder sounds, a bit more creative stuff. Just because I find that a little bit more interesting. I guess I come from a piano background, so I enjoy different piano chords.
Thomas and I have a similar taste in music. However, when it comes to working on music, I'm happy to work on music. You know, it's better than doing a lot of other things in life. So I'm not fussy about what I work on or whatever. And I like to do new things or work on something that I haven't, or a style of music I haven't worked on before. You know, yeah.
Yeah,
because I'm in the audio engineering business more than anything. You know, Thomas is a producer, composer. So I work with clients. You know, so the context in which I answer that question is working with clients. The context in which Thomas answers that question is just what he likes to make for himself, or with his friends and stuff like that. You know, for me, you know, in terms of my mixing and mastering portfolio is quite widely varied, you know. However, historically, I make electronic music, like ambient stuff and whatever. Anyway,
indeed.
Cool.
Right, we're going to head off in a minute. If you've got any more questions, leave them below. We'll be live streaming next Wednesday.
Same time every week.
Same time, 7 p.m.
Until further notice.
7 p.m. UK
7
time.
7 p.m. UK time.
Yep.
London,
Paris. Leeds. No, Paris is...
Is Paris not the same time?
I think it's an hour ahead. Yeah.
Because are they like...
I believe it's an hour ahead. I could be wrong.
Because Spain is directly, but Spain is the same time
I think
zone?
Spain's 2 hours ahead. I might be making all this up.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, if you...
Because Spain would be on the other side of France then.
Anyway, so thank you for everyone watching. If you've got any final questions, leave them below.
Also, you can get the ferry down to France from Dover. I don't remember changing my clock on my Casio or. But the iPhone just does it automatically.
We're having all these debates when in reality we've got Google. I think debates have gone. Amsterdam is 9 p.m. now. It's 8 p.m. here, so an hour ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, now I understand.
Because I've got the bus to Amsterdam before, and it's like 10 hours, like -1 for the.
Cool. Anyway, let's keep this music production related if we can. Thank you for everyone that's watched. Hopefully we see you next week. Any final thoughts?
No.
Nope.
Not anything relevant anyway.
Relevant.
Maybe I don't know about this France thing, but so see you at 8 next week.
Yep. 8 p.m. your time.
8 p.m. your time.
7 p.m.
Yeah.
our time. Thanks everyone.
You're welcome, Michael. Cheers. Bye.